You've been judging me from the second you saw me. And that's fair because I've been judging you. Within the first few seconds that we meet each other, we start deciding things like whether we find each other credible, likable, and whether we want to connect with each other. And that connection is what helps you engage, influence, and persuade people. So how can I help you connect better? How can I help you bring your best self into the light? Today, I'm going to share 4 tips with you. The first is to introduce yourself. You know your story better than anyone else, so you should introduce yourself. Second, curate your storytelling. Third, perfect your presence. And fourth, code switch. So let me take my own advice and introduce myself to you. Namaste. I'm Zehra Naqvi. I have lived in 7 countries and learned 7 languages. I'm an American diplomat, I'm an attorney, and I'm an immigrant. What that means is I've led a life of immersing myself in the unfamiliar. I love learning social cues, and I want to better understand the art of persuasion. Understanding connection and optics is at the heart of my job as a spokesperson for a U.S. embassy. My expertise, though, is born out of necessity, too. I am not who most people expect to walk into the room as the U.S. diplomat. So that means I have to leverage every bit of my presence and storytelling to reinforce my position, to better do my job, and to better connect with people. I have mentored a number of people on exactly this because I love it, and I'm going to share some of those tips with you today. So let's get started with the idea of curating your storytelling. Before you think of the story you're projecting to other people about who you are and what you want to do, it starts with figuring out the story you want to tell yourself. That's at the heart of the story we project to other people. I mentioned very briefly that I was an attorney. There are 2 ways I can tell you that story. The first way is I studied in law school for 3 years. I worked at multiple law firms. I found the work didn't really suit me, so I left it behind. That's version 1. Version 2 is not many people make it through 3 years of law school in the United States. I'm very proud I did that. Not many people land jobs in law firms in New York City. I did that. And in the law firms, what I learned is how to assert myself, how to think critically and analytically about problems, and how to persuade people. Everything I've told you about this is really a part of my story as a lawyer, but that set up the foundation for me to become a diplomat. So I'm grateful for that education and that training. The 2 versions I told you are absolutely true. The second version, though, is the one I hope you can tell I've internalized. And that's what I project with my entire being and the stories that I tell you. What can get in the way of our storytelling, though, is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is a very real thing. At the root of it is that we can only hear the doubts in our head. We cannot hear the doubts in other people's heads, so we think that doubt is unique to us. It is not. I'll share a story with you. There's a really amazing organization based across the Himalayan region called the Kung Fu Nuns. It's an order of Buddhist nuns that teach self-defense to women throughout the Himalayan region. I adore them. I had the chance to meet them, and what I learned is that the younger nuns, some of them, were nervous about public speaking. So I offered to do a public speaking workshop. When I offered to do that, the nun said, "Great, thank you. Can you do it in Hindi?" Have I ever done a workshop in Hindi? No. Am I going to miss out on the opportunity to do a cool workshop for a cool group of people? No. So I said, absolutely. The night before the workshop, the doubt that rises up in you, right? What I'm telling myself is, what were you thinking? The audacity of you thinking you can pull this off. What do you do when you think, I'm going to fail? In that moment, you have to counter-talk yourself. You must persuade yourself with a track record. So what do I tell myself? I say, I have done a lot of public speaking workshops and communications workshops. I know the Kung Fu nuns, so I can customize a communications workshop for them. And I know enough Hindi to do a workshop and learn to fill in a few words to make it better. And I have never let myself fail before. I'm not going to start now. The workshop went really well. And now I have a connection with a group I truly care about. And this entire episode now becomes another counterpoint the next time that doubt rises up, right? So it's part of this counter talk that I have to do for myself. Sometimes, though, the doubt isn't from within us, it is from other people. So let me share an example of that. I have a very good friend. She's a rising star in the tech sector. She gets invited to do a really big deal podcast. She goes home, she tells her husband. And her husband says, "Are you sure you want to do that? It sounds like a really big platform where you could embarrass yourself. It sounds like you could get in trouble with your employer with something you might say. What if you just say something wrong? I wouldn't do it." So now she's deflated. She's worried. She doesn't know if she should do it anymore. She calls me. What I tell her is, I want you to picture a large sporting event in a stadium. On the field are tons of athletes who have trained every single day for hours to be on that field. They're ready. And then I want you to picture the seats, the stands where the fans are. These fans love this game, love this team. They have not trained a day in their life. But those fans are the ones who are going to yell at the athletes, "What are you doing? Go left. How could you miss that? My 5-year-old could play the game better than you." Should the athletes listen to that critique from those fans? They shouldn't. There are people in your life that love you very much, that want the best for you, but they won't always have good advice for you for what you want to do. So how do you filter through that feedback and critique? The thing to ask yourself in that moment when you get feedback is, will this feedback allow me to change something that I can actually change? It's not helpful if someone says, "You're kind of short." What am I going to do with that, right? But if someone tells you something you can actively change that will help you get closer to your larger goal, even if it hurts your ego, that's good feedback. You should take that. If it's feedback of someone, even if they love you, projecting their fears and insecurity onto you, that's not helpful feedback. That's someone else's fear coming at you. So curating your story for yourself is where the story you project to others starts. Let's shift over to talking about perfecting your presence. I want you to picture yourself as a two-way walkie-talkie radio. We are always transmitting and we are always receiving. We are transmitting a story about who we are and what we want and what we're worth. And we are receiving and processing that information about other people. You have to know yourself first to curate your presence, to perfect your presence. If you are trying to tell the story that you're a successful person, it has to be reflected head to toe. I'm not here to tell you what to wear. I'm not here to tell you to wear makeup or not, or how to accessorize. I do want you to think about your morning decision-making now, though, because you're shaping the perception of other people by how you present yourself. What people are determining when they look at you is, are you put together? Are you someone they want to get to know? And do you pay attention to detail? So if you're wearing a suit head to toe, you're presenting as a professional person, you're like, I've done it, I'm doing a great job. But then you have dandruff all over your coat. What if everything looks good, you're groomed, you wear nice colors, you're ready, your nails are really big on the cuticles? We notice these things about each other. Am I telling you to change these things about yourself? That's up to you. But I want you to know people are noticing these things. If your shoes are worn, people will notice. So I want you to project the story that matches your look too, right? So your look must match the story you're trying to tell about yourself. A good trick for this, in terms of showing up to an event, let's say, is at the end of just about every event, there's a group photo. Picture yourself in that group photo. Does it look like you belong in that group? Doesn't matter if you're wearing Western formal attire, cultural attire, whatever it is. Does it look like all of you are going to the same event? Also, don't be scared to film yourself. You are the most critical person of you. So if you film how you look in a day, if you take a photo before you step out, you might see what's wrong or a little off. If you're about to present, you should practice, right? The first time you deliver a presentation should not be at the stage. It should be many times before, in front of a mirror, in front of a camera. Think also about your eye contact, your posture. The way you walk into a room says a lot about you. If you're walking like this, and like, let me just get to a corner where I can hide and then I'll figure out who I'm talking to, people notice. Whereas if your shoulders are back, you're smiling, your eye contact is meeting people, you are communicating, you probably want to talk to me. I'm someone worth talking to. I want you to also pay attention to things about the other person. In different cultures, greetings are essential. In Nepal, if you start without saying namaste. In Egypt, if you start without saying ahlan wa sahlan. In Thailand, if you start without saying sawadee ka. You are showing, at worst, you are rude, at best that you are uninformed. It takes you 2 seconds to do it. Why wouldn't you? Think also about the personal space between people. There are cultural differences for that. So if you're speaking to someone and someone takes a step back, don't fill in the gap. Read the social cue of what the other person is telling you about their comfort level. I also want you to pay attention to your speaking time. If you are in a group of 4 people, you've been talking for 5 minutes, everyone else only spoke for 1 or 2, you're telling a story about how much time you think you're entitled to, and it's not a good story. If you find yourself in that moment, what you can do is say, I'm so sorry, I've been taking up a lot of time. You mentioned you work for an NGO. How is that NGO being affected by the economy right now? I'd love to hear more from you. And now you've pivoted and shown you're actually trying to include other voices. That little step brings me to my last point, which is code switching. Code switching is the idea that you can change everything we've talked about you. You can adapt it to adapt the story you're telling people about you. You can code switch your posture and tone. So when you're going into a big meeting, you can control where you sit. You can control you're at the main table, you're not going to sit in the back row. If you're an intern or there's special circumstances, you might choose to. But generally, you want to show you belong at the table, you're prepared, you have your notebook, your pen, you've come prepared. I want to share a story about code switching that I think ties together everything I just talked about. Last week, I spoke to a group of women entrepreneurs. And in that group, the woman got up at the end of my Q&A and she said, I speak on panels all the time. The last time I spoke at a panel, a man got up at the Q&A section and he heckled me. He said, I don't think you know what you're talking about. You don't belong on that stage. You need to go do more research. What would I have done? She said she got red and flustered. So what's my advice? I said, you start by telling yourself the story that you were invited to be on that stage. You belong there. This person's questioning your authority. So what you're going to do is disrupt him. You're going to do what he doesn't expect. You're going to say, hi, what's your name? And he says, my name is Jay. You say, Jay, I agree. 100%. Before you get up in front of a group of people, you should know what you're talking about. Pause. You have disrupted his flow. You have shown that you're unbothered and you're in control. Now you're going to steal the attention away from him. So you're going to say, and that's why you're going to physically turn away. Say, that's why I did X, Y, and Z to prepare for today. In one of my conversations with this affected group, I learned X, Y, Z. Let me tell you about that. He is now dismissed. What I want you to take away today is that we are judging each other all the time based on our appearance, our voice, the way we walk, and the way we talk about our experiences. You have the power to shape those perceptions. So own that power and own your story. Thank you.